Radio. And welcome to our live studio audience for another exciting edition of Did You Know? And here we go with round one. Did you know?
The COVID vaccine is free and easy to get. You don't need insurance or emergency vaccine. Vaccines are available at many locations near you.
And now we're going to double the value. Did you know?
The COVID-19 vaccine is always free of cost. You can visit pharmacies, community health centers, and other health providers in your neighborhood.
And now for the lightning round. Did you know?
The Delta variant of COVID is a mutation that has health experts worried because it's twice as contagious.
Then for our finale. Did you know?
The best way to protect yourself from the COVID Delta variant is to get fully vaccinated. Get your vaccine today.
Find out more at kingcounty.gov/vaccine. Did you know?
Hey, this is Paul Pearson. I've hosted the R&B show Star Time since the very beginning of Rainier Avenue Radio, and after years of featuring tracks from the 50s through the 80s, Star Time now plays R&B and hip-hop from the 1990s as well. A whole half-century of soul, funk, hip-hop, and more on Star Time, Wednesdays at 2 p.m. on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Oh, my man. You know, everybody goes through a storm sometimes.
God is, and Rainier Avenue Radio.world have a new address. We're now located at 4916 Rainier Avenue South in Columbia City, 98118. God is still loving on your community, being a blessing and meeting the needs of the people. Don't miss any of our amazing shows. Your favorite community radio station. Tune in and come on down and get some free food and let us continue to love on you. Don't forget to tune in. See you soon for free food and free entertainment with God is and Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
This is Paul Pearson, host of Star Time. And when I'm not explaining to my intern exactly what R&B is, I'm listening to Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
You're listening to HeartBeat Radio. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. HeartBeat Radio is a conversation aimed to take the pulse of corporate America. Opportunities for people of color, we're getting lost in the shuffle of change. I'm that provocateur of change. The hearts of corporate America are addressed. Access and opportunities will be accelerated for all people. Through HeartBeat Radio, you will gain a deeper understanding of what is necessary for change.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to HeartBeat Radio and Podcast. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. Thank you for joining in this evening. I hope you got a chance to catch my special that I did yesterday it was a special that I called All Things Black. Let me welcome Joy in with me tonight because I wanted to kind of pick up. Good evening, Joy. How are you?
You'd think I'd understand how to come off mute after 2.5 years. I'm great. I just ran back to the house from a candidate event. So glad to be here. Glad to be back here with you. You rocked it last night. I don't know if our viewers watched. I heard a lot of people watch, but I wanted to just give you a shout out.
Thank you.
It was incredible. You did an awesome job. And I think all your panelists, and if that's what I can call them, or guests, did an awesome job. And it was a really nice to see just this frank conversation around the issues that you posed. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no, I was trying to, part of the mission of this was, ballots are dropping today. And so tomorrow, I'm losing track of my days here.
Tomorrow or Friday. Yeah.
And so I actually didn't get to a lot of what I had planned to get to on the show last night. So talk about a lesson learned of having seven
chunks. You got to take it in chunks.
7 panelists on, and I was trying to get
Bonnie Watts.
Yeah, I was trying to get to a lot of the subjects. I wanted to be able to go deeper in that with you tonight, talk through some of those different things. I don't know what stood out for you. I'll make a couple of comments about what my observations were. Like it was, I thought it was fascinating. And I also thought that, there was some clear, what's the word? The men who were on, we had Sean Good on, who was the executive director of Choose 180, which is an organization that is helping address systems, some of these inequities with poor people and helping them to make better choices. I thought Sean did a fabulous job of his input to some of the conversations. He was probably what I'd call the realist real, who talks very real. Real recognizes real, people who just speak candor and truth. I like that about him. I really enjoy.
He has statistics. He has statistics. So.
And Craig did too. We had Craig Dawson on, who from the business world had a very different perspective about some things. I thought it was, but I have a lot of respect for him, for the work that he has been doing to try to help business recovery efforts for Black business. And I focused it on all things Black. And I want to talk to that a little bit too, because I just got some interesting comments from people about, my focus on Black. And I'm going to go into that more in the show here today. But so I thought that they added a lot of contribution, particularly about, there's some comments. It was a really good, we had several of our senators on there, Sean. We had Carolyn Payne, the president of the NAACP. That is Senator Cooter, Senator Dingra, Senator Wilson. Like really good contribution from these senators. And I also believe that they got to hear more than from constituents. And I asked some hard questions last night.
You did.
Yeah. What did you pick up? Thank you for showing that. Yeah, I didn't expect to go into some of the depths of which I did, but it was, part of this whole issue of Black people's recovery. Did you hear when I asked the question, I said something to the effect of, the last two legislative sessions we focused on coming out of COVID, can we focus this coming session on prioritizing Black people? So I asked that question.
Oh, I did not. I missed that. I caught the end because I was outside of the home at the time. I wasn't in front of my computer. I did not catch that. I caught the education part, which I loved. And I think you had the right people on to speak to that, Senator Claire Wilson. And I believe Sean answered, spoke to that too, and spoke very well to that.
What did you take from that?
Well, I felt like there was a little push to do more. We talk about folks that have been in these seats for a long time. You tend to talk about that a lot. And I always want to say, well, the wheels of the legislature slowly turn. But we just don't have any time to wait anymore. It's like our environment. We don't have 20 more years to wait for change. Change has to come right now. And I felt like Sean and the other gentlemen were definitely pushing our elected officials to, and not that they don't already see that, because I know they do. Representative Jamila Taylor, she's one that pushes. She speaks truth to power. And she's in there ready to do the work, ready to sit at the table, ready to bring folks to the table to make that work happen. But I felt like your two guests pushed that a little bit and said, we don't have time to wait. This is not a 5-year or 10-year thing. Correct. When people work on these issues for years, I've sat in rooms and heard elected officials say, we've been working on this for 10 years and we are so glad we finally got it passed. And it's like, are you kidding? Sometimes it's just the right thing to do. But I also want to not make light of the fact you have to have a plan. You have to have an implementation plan. You have to have what you like to call a system of making that plan happen. And so But does that take 10 years, 20 years?
Well,
Our kids don't have time. Our kids don't have that kind of time.
So my push on that was a couple things. One, when Craig used the statistics, and I asked him to do it, he's been on the show before. I've talked to him about, the statistics that he quoted were Black business GDP spend was 1.2 billion. And he said, with a 6% Black population, that number should have been closer to 24 billion. And so if you think about the delta, and I just think about the delta for billions, this will be with the investment that is coming through our legislatures, and not just the Washington state, but at the federal level, the small incremental steps that we are taking is never going to get us to a place of equity. And it's not that I'm not grateful and think that some good things aren't being done. Some good things are being done.
Right.
But when do communities, when do the communities that have suffered the most, the communities that have built this country, when is it our turn to be restored? That to me is fundamentally what the shift in priorities need to be. You can still see at the federal level, the $10,000 student loan debt relief. Nobody who's got a student loan only owes $10,000. Now,
that is true.
Right? It's going to help a lot of people. And I know there's a price ticket attached to it, but we seem to have money to fund many other things that are not, may not have as much significance. I don't know.
Right.
And so
especially on our communities, they're not going to have the significance on our communities.
Our health. Let's just break down who's suffering from health that they have. Because I was in deep thought about health inequities today, because look, I've been watching all these Black women. I see so many Black women who are posting about having breast cancer, and we are the highest rate of women who get it. We are the women who don't have access to health insurance, adequate health insurance. We are the women
behind us are our Indigenous sisters and our other sisters of color. Same thing. They don't have access to good, quality, timely. They don't have to wait 6 weeks for an appointment when you got cancer. Yeah, they don't have access to that. So I hear you. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the urgencies around. I just read today that this woman who I have been introduced to, she's a Black woman. I read her post today about, she's younger, a lot, I didn't get hit with it till, 55. But women are getting breast cancer in their 30s, and the numbers are staggering.
Yeah.
The numbers are staggering. In fact, when I was in treatment here in Bellevue at Overlook Hospital, so the infusion room there, I think had 25 chairs, in for infusion. It's a really large infusion center. And I was sitting there one day, this scar that everybody sees on me is still from that port that they put in my, it's a reminder to me of survivorship.
That's
but
right.
I got to see the women sitting in those chairs. They were young women, many of them really young and brown. I saw a lot of Indian, Bellevue has a large Indian population.
Yes.
I saw a lot. And I asked the nurse, and I was like, what is going on? I couldn't believe how—
Why are there only women of color in here, right? Yeah, you're like, I got to have your book in my background.
Well, thank you for that. Yeah, so, you see, so the nurse had said to me at that time, because I leaned over, even having poison pushed in my veins, I was still in the seat fighting. And I'm like, what is going on? How have we gotten to this point? And the nurse said, well, she goes, we've been trying to get this categorized as an epidemic because it's 1 in 7 women. But she said, more importantly, the age, they have been working with the insurance industry because they've been trying to get breast exams mandatory, the age starting down to 30 years old. That's how serious this stuff is. And I said, well, what's the status of it? What are they doing it? And she said, no. She goes, and I said, why not? And she literally leaned over to me and she said, because there's more money in all of us being sick.
No doubt.
And
No
so-
doubt. I am not surprised by that one bit. I'm supposed to go every year because I'm adopted. I have no health history. I have no health history.
I didn't
So
know
guess
that
what?
about you. You've never shared that with me.
I didn't know that.
No. You never
That's a
told me.
whole nother show.
Oh, yeah. So even more scary. Look, there's no breast cancer in my family that I'm aware of.
You were the
And
first? Oh,
so when they asked me that, I said, y'all cannot, this is not genetic because I'm the first.
no.
By the way, mine was the size of an eyelash. I had no lumps. You were with me when I got the diagnosis. Do you remember that in the airport? So it was caught me out of left field because I take care of myself. Like I'm fairly healthy. I eat right, exercise. Like I do the things to take care of myself. And here I ended up, and then it's the size of an eyelash. So they cut it out, but they're like, it got into your lymph nodes. So I had to go through this whole hell. And hell broke loose in my family.
Well,
because
you had access and you had the money to do it.
Well, let me tell you what I had. And I think this is an important thing that I think maybe a lot of people don't know of, and or it's categorized as only wealthy people can get it. I am not a wealthy woman. Let me just state this. But I also pay for concierge doctor. And so I've had a concierge doctor for the last 15 plus years. And a concierge doctor is a doctor that you just pay a monthly fee to. I pay a monthly fee to. She is a naturopath in Redmond. Her name is Dr. Brooke Z. Rents. Dr. Brooke has changed. She's a game changer for life because naturopath medicine is about healing your body from the constitution, not through drugs. And they're trying to fix but more importantly, I have access to her. So anything I need, anytime when this happened, I can call her or I can text her, which I did. And immediately had a team of people working on my behalf and coordinating my care for me. Now, not everybody can do that, to your point. I happen to live in a wealthy area code where money is funneled into the community. So here's where you see inequity, where it's the same with like schools and everything else. When you live in a wealthy community, you can have access to things that most people don't have access to.
That's right. That's right.
And so I feel like, through the grace of God, where he has me, and that's why I feel, that whole scripture, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so I have had a lot of grace and blessings in this whole journey. And so I feel responsible to advocate and fight for, Black women and, brown women, and who are not being, in every fiber of society, we are left behind. And it's so significant. So back to your point about, the legislature, and, I think we get tired of talking, and I think you heard me ask questions around, like, can the community have a say so, and who is the chair of the education committee in the legislature? And, I saw the looks on their faces when I asked it, but they're not accustomed to their constituents asking for a vote in who's representing us on those committees. And it's my opinion that that person who's running that particular committee is harming Black children. And so if we can't even talk about that, if we can't even, bring people in or elected people, because again, they work for us. We don't work for them. So do we have a say so in who represents us and our communities?
I think that was, again, just pushing that envelope to say, what can we do and how can we make change faster? Mm-hmm. And here's just one way that we can start to make that change. Mm-hmm. There's a lived experience for our kids, for Black mothers and fathers, mm-hmm. Poor mothers and fathers, because I feel like our Black kids, brown kids, and kids of color are treated just like the poor white kids. Because if you don't have money, they're looking at you like, you're less than. So I think it's an interesting fact to be able to say, to our elected officials, can we make this change? How can we make this change? And here's some of the new ideas. That's a new idea, Cindy. It may not have gone over, but that's.
Well, look, what have we?
I've never heard anybody ask that question. So I was like, wow, she asked that question. And I don't know how committees are.
Well, look, that particular seat has been held by somebody for 16, 18 years. So there's a career politician in there. And, one of the things that Craig brought up last night about the labor unions, look, this is controversial stuff, but we have to start talking the truth about what's going on, particularly for people who don't, follow politics or understand how some of these systems in politics works. And so let's just be real that, education is the foundation for everything in our lives, our children's lives. I'm not saying everybody has to go to college. I'm saying everybody has to have access for education if they want it. And when you look at globally competing, when you think about things like wealth generation, when you think about things like starting businesses, when you think about that, the fundamental basis for that is having access to education. And the highest rate of people getting advanced degrees is, drum roll, Black women. And so Black women are still earning 53 cents to the dollar, even though,
we're accumulating more student loan debt than anyone else because we wanted to go get. I think the both of us I went in my late 40s.
Me too.
I started college 48, 47.
Me too. I graduated at 50.
40. I graduated at 49. And so that's late. Of course, I only borrowed this much, and now I owe this much. So that's a whole scam. Well, it's so interesting how my college-age son's like, that whole student loan thing is a scam.
Yeah, I have a scam. Mine is a federal loan. And it's interesting, even the cost of it. And let me say this, there's several reasons why I went to school. I went to go get my MBA. And that is because I was sitting at the top levels inside of corporate America. And I got a lot of feedback about, Cindy, if you just, and if you just got this, like, if you just did this. And so I was like,
I heard that too, but
so let me just go get this. Now, I enjoyed getting that. It was tough. Let me just tell you, going to school at 48 years old and trying to put spreadsheets together. And, I was asking questions like, aren't there, apps that can calculate this stuff? And they're like, yes, but we want you to learn. I'm like, well,
yes, you have to learn how to do it.
Teach me the buttons I need to push to figure it out on it. Have you ever seen an algebra calculator? That was
yes. I had to buy one. Yes.
The cost of education is horrendous.
Yes.
My education was a lot.
Yes.
And I'm glad I did it. And now that I have invested in myself that way, I could see just how much the spread of difference between somebody like me sitting in a boardroom or a C-suite and most of the guys that are in there, because a lot of them are not. I have a whole story I can tell about my last corporate gig and the double standards that they were trying to hold for the Black and brown students coming in, and the requirements for GPAs and finance degrees and all the stuff that none of them had. And so I had done my homework.
Don't get me started on the article you sent.
Did you?
93% of our Black CEOs have higher degrees than 53% to the
Let's show that article real quick. It's a great article, and it just came out.
That is awesome article.
Yeah, it just came out this
last
week.
Washington Post.
And it talks, there's a lot in the article. I encourage our viewers to read this article because you get to see the percentage of people. That's Rosalind Brewer. Rosalind is the former Starbucks executive. She's now at Walgreens. One of the very few Black women. I want to say they said, I can't remember the number, 6%. But it talks to how overly qualified the people who make it to this level, they
Yeah.
are way more qualified, overly qualified, because they have to continually prove themselves over and over again. And it calls for, it's interesting because it talks about the fact that, this isn't a hiring issue, which I have been saying from day one. This is not a hiring issue. This is an ecosystem issue. This is what's happening inside of these organizations. I asked that question last night at the event, and I talked about the fact that, look, there is a rank, a middle management rank that's the chopping block for where women, Black women, brown women hit those glass ceilings, and they are being torn down and not allowed to, even though they are still, like this article says, way more qualified than any of the people that are there. So the qualified notion of trying to tell, brown and Black people that we aren't qualified, that's just bullshit. That is all about, they don't want to work for us. They don't see us as leaders. They still feel entitled to have access to every opportunity to earn their wealth, and they will tear down other people and other people's lives in order for them to have it. And so this is the kind of stuff, I mean, it's kind of a little bit what Sean was speaking to last night, right? Like, we got to get real about this stuff, because until we, until we address it from its root, not from a symptom, right? Not having enough people in the seats is a symptom. The root cause of it are the people that are doing this to tear other people out. So it is going to be fascinating to continue to see what this is all going to bear. And so
I appreciated that article, because it just states what we as Black women who've been in corporate America, who've been in the nonprofit world, who worked most of our lives know. The challenges of getting into the CEO job is the challenges that we had along the way, not getting there. It's the challenges that we had along the way, and having to be more than. And I always go back to, and same with you. Somebody said, well, you can move up in our company, which doesn't exist anymore. So I can say a group health, but you need to have a degree. You don't have a degree.
That was
I went and got the degree, and then I couldn't move up in the company.
And then the standards change, and the rules change.
And I didn't know at the time. Clueless. I was like, how does this work? And then I was like, how this works is I have to leave this job in order to do better for myself. A job where I loved what I did. I loved my clients. I loved my team. I didn't necessarily love the leadership, neither here nor there. And I knew that the leadership was kind of, don't ask too many questions. Shh.
Isn't that
make a fuss? I didn't know at the time what that was.
What year did you leave them? Because they had a Black CEO. What was his name? Was it Bernard Shaw?
What year was that? 2013. I left 2013. May 2013. My 10 year. I left the day before my 10 year. And they gave me my 10-year pin anyway.
Did they vest you?
No. Because I was a worker bee. I wasn't.
Yeah, but a lot of organizations have, see, again, this is a whole nother conversation about.
I have my money. I mean, they gave me my money, but no.
But many of the pension plans, you start to
get
no
pension plan.
I'm just asking the question because many of those organizations should have those, and usually at the 7 or 10 year mark is when you actually get vested, where you can pull a pension. And a lot of the terminations.
5 years I was vested, but I didn't have a pension or anything. No.
A friend of mine who works for AT&T, he worked there for like 25, 27 years. And right before he was, it might have been 29 years, right before he was getting ready to be able to draw, he's brown, ready to draw. It happens all the time. That's the whole ageism thing.
And I was like, what?
Let's just take a quick commercial break real quick and pick it back up right after this about that.
Half that up in Saks, I favor Black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's Black. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo, yo, yo.
Rainier Avenue Radio.
Are you a small business owner in Seattle who was impacted by COVID-19? The Seattle Office of Economic Development is investing $8 million to connect small businesses to operating capital. The Small Business Capital Access Program will lower the cost of Washington State Small Business Flex Fund loans by paying down 25% of the loan principal. Eligible small businesses can borrow up to $150,000 with a 4% interest rate to cover expenses like payroll, rent, utilities, and supplies.
Hello, listener. What's important to you about what's going on in your community? Are you interested? Are you concerned? In any case, I invite you to tune into my show, Seattle Here and Now, on Rainier Avenue Radio.org. Why? I will be covering a wide range of topics important to you and impacting the community. Each show will have a special guest or guests to share with you information on a variety of subjects that are happening here and now in Seattle. I promise I will work hard to make my show informative, interesting, and entertaining. Be sure to listen to Seattle Here and Now on Rainier Avenue Radio.world.
Greetings. This is your host, DJ Neftali, Rainier Avenue Radio.world, the best DJ in the Seattle area. You can catch me every Monday at 8 p.m. on YouTube. Like I said, this is DJ Neftali, the best reggae in Seattle, Washington, the best radio station, Rainier Avenue Radio.world. Mom, right?
I'm Paul Pearson, host of StarTime, and back in my day, when we wanted to hear the radio, we had to stick a couple of coat hangers on Grandpa's head so his cavity fillings could pick up an AM station. But it's the 21st century now, so whenever I want to hear Rainier Avenue Radio.world, I listen to it on the brand new Rainier Avenue Radio app on my Android or iPhone. Download it for free at the Google Play Store or the iPhone App Store, the Rainier Avenue Radio.world app.
The Earshot Jazz Festival kicks off October 8 and spreads out over 10 Seattle stages through November 6th with concerts all around the city. All concerts live and in person, and many of them streamed directly to your home. Tickets and information available up online. Earshot.org. It's the Earshot Jazz Festival 2022. See you soon.
Here with the Rainier Avenue Radio traffic update. You can listen to us in your car 24/7 anytime by downloading the free TuneIn app. Once you do, search Rainier Avenue Radio. And remember, do not curse out your fellow drivers. This has been your Rainier Avenue Radio traffic update.
That up in Saks, I favor black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yo.
Welcome back to HeartBeat Radio and Podcast. I'm your host, Cindi Bright. Joy and I are chopping it up tonight, just debriefing and talking about the special last night, All Things Black, talking about Black people, Black issues. Let's bring Joy back in. I want to dive into that. I want to talk a little bit about, a comment I got. I want to explain this again because I've explained it a few times on the show. I actually wrote and did a press release on the show for yesterday too. And when I had the press release, I had gotten feedback on it. And I've had other people say they had it written as, Cindi BIPOC, Cindi this, and she's BIPOC. And I deleted out BIPOC and put black. And I deleted out BIPOC and I put black. And I'm gonna explain why I do this. Because this is, to me, is an important thing. First off, I've continued to say to people, because I fight for Black does not mean I don't support other people. That's not, read my book, you can see the things I talk about in there. The challenge we have in this society is that every time something is mentioned or something is done to help a Black person, all hell breaks loose, and we don't want to talk about that.
Right.
And we want to dilute the efforts that many of us are honing in on, because anti-Black people hate Black, brown people hate Black folks too. So these issues are not just specific. I'm not just talking about white people or their behavior. Whiteness and colonization in systems are bred into everybody. And this society has been programmed to dishonor, disrespect, and diss Black people. And Malcolm X said it. The most disrespected person in the world is the Black woman. And so I will continue to focus my work on Black women. I will not apologize for doing all things Black, because when we address and reconcile this ecosystem, do you know how much better everybody's lives will be?
Not just ours.
Not just ours.
Because I believe Representative Jamila Taylor said that last night. Not just ours, but see, everyone will benefit.
We have to continue to say it. Every Black woman has to continue to drive comfort into other people to let them. And so I'm fatigued of it. So I just deleted it out and just said, Black women, Black people, I'm tired of us not understanding this. This is an intentional way to try to disregard a significant problem that no one wants to talk about. And, I had this business meeting earlier today. I was talking to this executive, and he said, he was talking about something going on in the organization. And so I was explaining a few things to him. And I said, I haven't had a corporate job in 10 years now. And I'm breakdancing. I haven't had to be in that shit anymore. But I said to him, 10 years ago, I couldn't talk about race. Couldn't talk about it inside of an organization. I had to constantly deal with it through other lens without ever using the word Black people or Black or race. You say
race. Couldn't say race. Couldn't say race.
That was just 10 years ago.
And I'm still trying to figure that out at my own organization. We're doing some equity work and racial justice work within our own organization. And I said to one of the younger staff members, first of all, how come we're not all doing this together? And second of all, we didn't do this back in my day. Sounding very old, I'm sure, to her. But she's like, really? And I was like, we knew it was happening. We knew it was happening, but we never talked about it. And we never brought it up.
And all the things that, again, I'll just highlight my book again for people that, when I talk about what went on with myself inside all the things that I had to deal with and endure, beyond what I think most people even know happens. For example, I constantly had to deal with the white women who accused me of sleeping with the CEO, and I was not accused and so trying to tear me down. I had to deal with it all the time, not just one time. Gossip, talking about people, even to this day,
unless for sure. And even
if I was, it's none of their damn business. I wasn't. However,
all that right there.
The toxic behavior of what so, I mentioned this last week on the show when I was talking, when we were celebrating April Sims and Sharita Carter getting the leadership positions at the
Yes.
And, I worry for them, because every Black woman that excels and gets herself to a place of influence and power, these chicks, her problem, her challenges are going to come from white women in her organization. And that is a fact. They do not see us as leaders, and they think that they are owed those jobs and that they're entitled to have them. And so they'll start categorizing. I guarantee you it'll be angry, aggressive, standoffish. It's the same playbook that they use with all of us.
Did you experience that when you were a candidate? Because I did. I called them the mean girls.
Several of them are in the legislature right now.
Oh, don't say that. Just dealing with endorsements and
it's the colonized. It's how white women have been raised. White women have been raised. Many of them. It's not a blanket statement here. I'm categorizing.
Not all.
But many of them are raised as, I call them, these princesses. And so, they get the tiaras put on in their fluffy dresses, and then they think everybody's supposed to treat them like that. Okay. So what princesses do is they are better than everybody else, and they're the pretty ones, and they're the whatever the narratives are, right? So they take those behaviors from small children, while we as Black women, we come out of families and environments where we're trying to freaking keep roofs over our head and feed our families. And so we're raised to survive, like learning how to hustle.
Do better. And do
right?
better.
And so you got these two,
better. Yeah.
Right. Two contrasts of women. And then what starts to happen is as they get older and they start seeing, this is kind of some of the messages in The Woman King, right? We get to a point where we can do anything and everything because we've had to. Right. And they can't because they've been used to just having, the tiara on and
somebody told them they were good and they didn't have to do much.
And so that runs all through the workplace. That behavior comes through loud and clear. And so when your point about, when I ran for office, they treated me just like how girls always treat women that they're jealous of and insecure of, right? They don't talk with you. They won't invite you into their spaces. They won't take a photo with you. They can't be seen, even though, at the time I was the endorsed candidate, but they were afraid that if I didn't get elected, all that, right? And so all that kind of stuff.
That was the stuff I didn't like. That was the politics that I didn't like. And to this day, I still don't like. And, we always joke, we dodged a bullet.
We did.
We really did. But I always say, both of us took that path to reach where we are today.
Yeah, it was the right thing for us to do. Like we
at the right time.
At the right time, we learned it. We laid some groundwork for the next women. We were some of the first Black women to run in this state, and
so I feel good about that. And I appreciated the fact that Nikita Oliver was like, you all are pioneers. Mm-hmm. You all came before us, and acknowledged that. And I was like, okay.
And she saw us like this is going to sound Cindi Brightish, but look,
Cindyism. All right, Cindyism.
I wasn't doing this whole culture of let me just pose and I didn't do any of that and so I think that
I did selfies with people, not with myself. I don't know.
Saying this goes on, and because I didn't choose to, I don't know. I don't like pictures of myself. I don't like to.
I don't either.
I'm not good at promoting myself. It's a problem for me, even in business, because I don't advocate for myself enough or fight enough for it. I don't feel like
you fight enough for everybody else, young lady, so you're good.
This is true.
Hey, I wanted to talk about that other article you sent because I found that one also fascinating that you talked about last night. Thank you, Daniel. I'm like, where is this money? $200 billion. Top named companies who pledged this money. Where is the money? Where is the strategy? And why is JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America doing loans as investments in Black communities? I don't get it. Someone please explain. I was like,
yes, you do.
That's not a strategy. That's not
a strategy for them to make. It's a strategy for them to make more money, and it's a strategy for what Christopher Columbus did, right? Where you come in when somebody can't. You come in and take. And so it's nasty. Now, I asked this question last night, but I couldn't get into it. I was starting to run out of time. There were actually several topics I couldn't go deep in because there was so much to say.
One topic at a time, Cindi.
Well, I was trying to cover a lot of issues I think are important. This is one of them. The fact that we all saw our email boxes blowing up during George Floyd in
Right.
2020, we all saw their commitment to racial equity, and yet most Black, from my perspective, most Black women consultants are, that work is not lucrative. There's not money there the way they say. I can't tell you how many of organizations I talk to, everybody wants you cheap and free. It's
we
awful.
are no longer cheap or free.
And it's not, they'll put on a training. They want to spend, $100 and call it good. I've done my homework. Like, I make sure I am prepared every time I go meet with people. I benchmark. I have my white consultant friends that I meet with and talk to so that I can understand how they would look at it, what they would price it for, so that I can go and equip.
They don't, no bites.
They don't bite the way they do. I have more white friends doing equity work than I have Black people are. That is a fact that I know.
That's incredible. I guess first of all, I didn't know that many top brand name organizations pledged that kind of money. Number one. Number two, I was amazed at the amount of money that they said they were going to pledge. And then number three, reading that Bank of America and JP Chase Morgan, however their name is, were doing loans as investments to try to fight back against redlining. And I'm like, that doesn't even make sense. You're going into this making money for yourself, not for the community. Because if it was for the community, why not buy property, distressed property, rehab it, sell it as a co-op to lower income folks? So you might have a grandma in one unit, a single mom in another unit, a single dad in another unit, local workers, restaurant workers, hospitality workers in another unit. So if you had, let's just say 8 units, and it was a co-op and you're selling it to them, where now it's a mortgage for them and they have ownership of that said property, apartment or whatever, condo, wouldn't that be more charity based, investing in the community, putting your mouth where your money is, putting your money where your mouth is? Yeah.
What you're talking about, first of all, I openly say I'm a business person too, and we all want profit. We work for profit. I work for profit. I'm not working just to get by.
I don't. I work for nonprofits. So.
I'm working to build wealth. That's what I'm not hating on companies doing. That's not the issue. It's the question of social and moral responsibility in communities where you do business, and how much is enough. Now you can pull every. I've coached enough people. I ask, I teach them how to go look at financials, how to pull 10Qs, how to read and understand profitability lines, where this might, like, equipping women to go in and have those kind of conversations so that they can't be bamboozled, which is most of the time. That's the issue, is social and moral responsibility in communities. What does that look like? How, we didn't even get heavy into the housing topic last night, which Senator Cooter I was trying to get to that topic and go deep, because part of wealth generation is our
home ownership.
Right. Yeah. But I didn't have enough time to get into that whole topic. Sean, when he talked, and he talked about stopping criminalizing poverty. And, right. And so he's exactly right. And so you can't, people who are poor, and look, you don't even have to be poor in this part of the world. You can be making decent money and still can't afford a damn house here. I mean, it's unaffordable here.
Yes.
So
yes. And I appreciated the fact that he said that. I was like, oh my God, that's good. Yeah. Like, yes, we need to keep saying that and keep saying that. But it's all part of the process of how can we get there. If what was the I just saw for every I think it's like 9% of people who cannot afford to buy a home, another percent becomes homeless. It's like this kind of domino effect. Like for the people that become homeless, less people can afford homes. And this is why we have homelessness, people. We need to make rents affordable. We need to make homeownership accessible.
Let's be clear about who this is hitting, because it's not just we all know all the brown and black people are making 53 cents to the dollar. But this is also an ageism issue as well, because people are getting paid 50. That is another trend. Again, former HR person here, people over 50 getting laid off and losing jobs. And once you get laid off in your 50s, your ability to earn the same earning power again, particularly if you've held long-standing jobs for a long time, your earning power goes way down, and people are not hiring people over 50. And so that's the homeless problem. When you look at people who are laying in the streets, there's a lot of older people. There's a lot of older white people there. They're facing the same thing. You can't, everybody in this area is 2 paychecks. So I don't care what you say. We're still fighting for $15 an hour where rents are $4,000 a month. So you got to have, what was the data that shows you got to earn $44 an hour in the area. And we're still fighting for $15 an hour. And all of the businesses now, all of the restaurants and everybody, they've upped their tip, options to 30%.
Oh.
Are you kidding? Like the regular people can't afford this. Or desire to. I'm not going to fix the restaurant industry. It's not my responsibility to tip at that level. Fix your freaking pay where people can, actually give them some benefits. Help them. And again, legislators, you work for us. Help these people. If the small businesses can't afford to give insurance to people, where are our options? What is the government's role in helping people?
And what did Jack say? 67%.
Yeah.
Like he had a percentage, and he was like, 67% of the businesses pay most of the taxes. And I was like, wow, I need to go research that because I didn't know that.
So it begs the question again. He was right. Okay, when you have businesses paying that kind of money into it, and our children are not getting educated, and we can't afford rent, and we can't get health care.
This is why we're living in our cars and under a bridge.
Yeah. So again, when I ask the questions, can we be a priority for 2023? Do we have a say-so in who chairs these committees? You guys work for us. So where is our ability to give input with who we want representing us? I know voting is part of it, but once you get into the legislature, I don't know how they make decisions about who's on what committees. I don't know how that's done.
I don't either.
Yeah.
That will be our goal, is to figure out how to do that.
Figure how that's, yeah. Because again, those people are gatekeepers and they control. And if you have, how many people have said we need term limits to being, and that I agree with that. Once you've been, I don't know what the answer is. They have them.
And that would help to build a bench of people as well.
Right.
It would also help to build a bench.
You're allowed to be in 2 or 3 sessions. Right.
Yeah.
And I get you need to be in at least 2 sessions because I know, right. You got to get your feet underneath you and you got to build relationships. All that I get. Maybe maybe it's 2 or 3 sessions, and then you shouldn't have the right to.
Cindi, I had somebody at the doors when I was knocking doors in 2018, because we didn't knock doors in 2020. 2018 asked me, so what's your thought about term limits? And I was like, well, I haven't really thought about it. What's your thought about term limits? And he was very honest. He said, I'm sorry, but I think there should be term limits because people get in there and they get lazy and they get complacent. Now, this is a voter that I knocked on his door, and he said, how long do you want to be in office? And I was like,
it's true.
It's a good question. It's a great, and I said, probably 6 to 8 years only. I said, because my husband's going to want to retire in 6 but I don't want to retire for 10.
Even
So
if
I'll
you
split the difference and say 8. And he said, I'll vote for you. And he said, only because you don't want to sit there
forever
and not do any work.
But part of what, happens is, that those positions have power, and power is what is it? Intoxicating. And so
I guess I've never had any.
Again, princesses versus warriors. Let's just be real. They get in and they get a title and power, and they're not going to let that go. We either have to change the term limits, because that's why we have somebody who, when was the last time, I have been respectful and not called her name out. I feel like calling it out. But she's been in that seat. And I think the last time she actually put a bill forward was in 2016. Remember how when she was on the show, were you on with me when she was on the show?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, when she said that, and I was like, this is a friggin' mess. This is a friggin' mess.
No, you're not. Joy has to keep her day job.
I don't want to be disrespectful to people.
No, and we're not here to call people out. We're here to call issues out.
The issues out. And that is a problem when you have people sitting in seats for that freaking long, and they're not putting legislature forward, and they have the audacity to come on air and say to me that not all kids are deep thinkers. And I almost lost my freaking cool when she said that, because that's another way of saying, Black kids are just stupid. And so, and in the remember I had like all of Aaron's plaques behind me, and I was like, do you even see the Stanford? Like, do you even
I was saying the same thing. I've got my kids like commendations and medals behind me.
You're not you're talking to. And then when I probed it and she was trying to explain critical thinking to me, I was like, clearly you haven't Googled me. Like, clearly you haven't. She had no idea who she was speaking to. Again, classic examples of they don't think we're anything. They don't see that we've done anything, that we are worthy of it. They see us as, what I say in my TED Talk, what you see in me exists in you. So you think I'm garbage because you ain't done shit in your elected time in office to help brown and Black people, even though you look like one of us. I said it. And so it's exhausting to see that happen, and that one person can have that much power and create so many problems in the community simply because we have the wrong person at that chair seat.
And I want to see, because I know that, like I said, you had some great people on last night. Senator Claire Wilson, Representative Jamila Taylor, Senator Dinkra, where they are really, I feel like, because I've seen some of the bills and some of the things that they've been doing and they've been working on, that they are really pushing the envelope and pushing not only for just their communities, but for Washington as a whole.
Yeah.
And
I thought Senator Claire, it's interesting when you watch, I can tell she's a badass. Like
she's a force to be reckoned with. And all of her 4 feet 11, 12, whatever.
Yeah.
And I love that we've got some women in there who are actually doing the work. The Nicole Macris of the world, the Noelle Frames of the world, those are my April Bergs of the world, because we love April Berg. Yeah. Not that we don't love all the rest of them, but we love, April Berg and Representative Jamila Taylor. So, I know that there's women in there that are doing hard, they're not easy bills. These are hard bills that they are trying to pass and make change with. And so I want to just give that shout out that we know that you all are there and that you're working hard. But we've got to, Cindy's got to call it like she sees it. And so I'm gonna let you
love the fact you like me being the bad cop.
Hey, somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to do it. But you know, I also feel like had we been in there, I think we would have been like the folks who said, not again. I can't do this again. This is not moving. This is not moving in the direction I wanted to move in. I'm not being heard. I'm not being seen. But if I am, I'm maybe being told it's too much. It's too fast, too soon. I mean, I don't know. I like to read between the lines and think that some of the folks that decided not to come back, there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Look, that was a quick hour, Joy.
Yes.
Able to talk with you and break some of this stuff down. Let me just do a couple of announcements here with the community, just to make sure the community knows. Rainier Avenue Radio's got a couple of debates coming up next week. On Tuesday, there is the municipal court position with Najat Rose Atkins and Judge Damon Shadid. So that's on Tuesday. So join Rainier Avenue.
Go Najat.
Also, I mentioned it last week, but on Thursday next week, both the 37th District, there, Amijah and Chapalo.
I like both of them. I love both of them.
I can't wait to see who wins that, because then I'll be able to say more names on air about, because it's in their district. All right. So thank you, everybody, for who joined us tonight. Thank you for participating, hearing this conversation. More power to all of us. Get out to vote. Ballots are dropping. Yeah. See you guys all next week. Have a good evening.
Row your vote.
That up the sacks, my favorite black businesses. Assuming I'm rooting for everybody that's black. Yeah. Yeah. Assuming I'm rooting